Welcome to Stellar Sleep Tales. Tonight, you're not just falling asleep, you're falling inward, not into dreams, but into gravity itself. A soft drift into something darker, something quieter, something that doesn't let go. Breathe easy. Let the stars outside your window dim. Let the pull begin. If you've ever wondered what would happen if you fell into a black hole, not just your body, but your thoughts, your memories, your name, tonight we begin that journey. The descent won't be sudden, it will be slow, gentle, eternal. Let me ask you a strange question. What if black holes remember you? We know they crush matter, they bend light, they silence time. But what if they do more than that? What if the moment you fall in, every version of you that ever existed gets etched into the deepest fabric of the cosmos? Not forgotten, not erased, but stored quietly forever. This isn't just about science, it's about you. The moment you pass the point of no return, the world outside will never see you again. Time outside moves on, stars drift, planets spin, but you'll keep falling, not for seconds, not for minutes, but forever. And the question that will follow you as you drop deeper into nothing: are you still you if the universe forgets? No one has ever returned from a black hole, not even light. But we're not sending a spaceship tonight. We're sending you, your mind, your curiosity, your fear. Imagine it. You're falling now. There's no floor, no end, just a slow downward pull through absolute silence. And with every passing moment, another layer of you begins to blur. Your thoughts stretch, your memories flicker, but something holds on, something watches. You didn't think black holes had memory, but maybe that's the mistake. So tonight we fall together, and as we descend into gravity's final secret, I invite you to stay with me. Don't scroll away. Don't blink too long. This isn't a story you've heard before. This is a question wrapped in silence, a story that may never end, and when it does, you might not be the same. Take one last breath of normalcy, and let's fall. You're floating above a star, but it's not a star anymore. It was once the heart of something bright, something massive, but it died in silence, and now, in its place, is something darker. A pit in space, a wound in the universe, a black hole. From here, it doesn't look like much, just an absence, a quiet circle cut out of the sky. But your instruments scream. Light curves unnaturally around it. Gravity distorts space like melted glass. And as you drift closer, you feel it. Not a pull on your skin, but on your mind. Something below is reaching upward, and it's not reaching for your body. It's reaching for your memory. Let's pause here. That's our first pattern interrupt. Because most people think a black hole is just a vacuum, a place where matter falls in and vanishes. But physics says that's not quite right. Matter doesn't simply disappear. Information, your atoms, your brain, your thoughts, cannot be destroyed. Not truly. So if you were to fall in, something about you might remain, not alive, but encoded, whispering. We call this the black hole information paradox. A paradox because we know black holes evaporate eventually. They disappear. So, where does the data go? Now back to you. You're crossing the edge. Scientists call it the event horizon, the last place where light can still escape. Once you cross it, nothing gets out. Not light, not sound, not you. And from the outside, it will look like you've frozen, like you're hanging in space forever, just above the edge, never quite falling in. but that's only what it looks like to them. From your perspective, you're still falling. The ship around you begins to stretch. This is not poetic, it's physics. Tidal forces, gravity stronger at your feet than at your head, begin to pull. It's called spaghettification. But you don't feel torn apart. Not yet. Because your mind is still intact. And you're watching. You're still asking questions. What's inside a black hole? No one knows. General relativity says the center contains a singularity, an infinitely dense point where physics breaks down. But quantum mechanics says information must be preserved. These two ideas don't get along, and in their argument, you exist, falling between theories, trapped in a question science hasn't answered. But the silence you feel now, it's personal. You expected falling to be loud, dramatic, but it isn't. It's soft. Every moment stretches. Every thought lingers longer than it should. Time bends here. From the outside, your fall looks frozen, but inside, time continues normally. You feel each second. Now, here's another pattern interrupt, because black holes don't just bend time, they may also bend identity. Stay with this thought. If you fall into a region where time moves differently, who are you compared to the version of you that stayed behind? Your twin on Earth grows old. You don't. Your body is here, but your mind, it might still be watching stars from decades ago. That's not just science. That's loneliness on a scale we can't imagine. And now the thought creeps in again. What if this thing remembers you, not as a person, not by name, but like a scent caught in old fabric, a signature burned into the walls of space-time? Maybe the black hole can't tell who you are, but it knows something entered. It felt your shape, your heat, your mind. Some physicists believe the edge of a black hole might encode everything that falls in, like a cosmic ledger, every quark, every photon, every thought, stored not inside, but on the boundary. This is the holographic principle, a stunning theory suggesting that our three-dimensional universe could actually be described by information written on a distant two-dimensional surface. So maybe, as you fall, your story is being written, etched onto the skin of the black hole, your past, your thoughts, even this moment, the one you're living right now, somehow imprinted. And here comes the open loop. Because if your story is written, is there a way to read it again? Could someone far in the future reconstruct who you were from the ripples left behind? Maybe, but only if the black hole remembers. You're drifting deeper now. The light from stars behind you is starting to curve inward. You're not just falling toward gravity anymore. You're falling out of the visible universe. If someone tried to see you now, they wouldn't. You're below the line, past the veil, and yet inside, you're still thinking, still remembering. That's the haunting part. You're not dead, but you're not really here either. You're inside a system that doesn't let information escape, and yet information must remain. Are you data now? Are you a signal trapped in silence? A recording without a player? And here's your soft horror. What if you can never stop falling? What if this moment, this single second, stretches out for eternity? No more beginning, no more end, just now. Welcome back to Stellar Sleep Tales. If this journey is haunting you softly, you're in the right place. We explore what others fear to touch, the edge of science, and the spaces beyond memory. If you'd like to keep falling with us, subscribe gently. We're just getting started. Let's pause. Feel how slow the world has become. That's how the mind copes with falling forever. We're far from done, because next we'll ask something even stranger. If time stops near a black hole, does your last thought echo forever? You've never heard the answer to that, and we're not giving it yet. You've passed the event horizon. From the outside, no one can see you anymore. You are hidden. Time, as far as they're concerned, has stopped for you. They will never watch you hit the center. To them, you've frozen, but from your perspective, everything feels strangely normal. You're still falling, still aware, still thinking. That's the part no one explains. You feel every moment. You're not frozen in time, you're just alone inside it. Let's step back, not literally, there's no going back, but conceptually. Time, as you know it, is not absolute. Einstein taught us that. Time bends, it stretches near massive objects. Black holes aren't just massive, they're extreme. The closer you are, the slower time moves relative to someone far away. That's called time dilation. So if you're drifting near a black hole and your twin is watching from Earth, they'd age faster. You could fall for minutes while they live for centuries. That sounds simple, but it changes everything. Let's say you're falling toward the black hole now. For someone watching you from far away, you slow down. As you near the edge, you seem to freeze. They will never see you cross it. But you know you did. You passed the horizon minutes ago. They think you're stuck in time, but to you, their time is racing past. Civilizations could rise and fall while you drift downward for what feels like only seconds. Here's a pattern break. Imagine waking up tomorrow and realizing that one night passed for you, but 1,000 years passed for everyone else. Your language is extinct. Your memories are ancient. Your identity is outdated. That's what happens when you get too close to a black hole. The world outside races ahead. You don't. So the question becomes, who are you now if no one remembers you and time itself no longer connects you to others? Are you still you? This isn't just philosophical, it's structural. Identity depends on continuity, memory, recognition, connection, but black holes break that chain. You've become unlinked. You still think, still feel, but you're not part of time anymore. You're in a different flow. Another thought. Time dilation isn't just about clocks ticking slower, it's about experience. Your fall feels real, linear, but the universe above you might have ended. The sun that warmed your home could have exploded. Your planet might not exist. And still, you fall. That's not fiction. That's what relativity allows. Think about how strange that is. You are falling through a universe that might have already forgotten you. The people you loved may have become dust. Their stories ended, but your story hasn't. You're suspended, isolated, trapped in a moment stretched across eternity. Let's interrupt again. This isn't a punishment. This is physics. It feels unfair, but the universe isn't emotional. It doesn't choose who falls or how fast. It simply obeys mass, gravity, and space. And yet, from the inside, it feels personal because you're still aware, still watching. Here's something more unsettling. Time doesn't just slow, it can twist, loop, fold. Some theories say inside black holes, Time and space switch roles. You can't move forward anymore. You can only fall forward in time, like a river with no shore. You want to escape sideways, but sideways has become meaningless. Every path leads down. Down becomes your future, and your future becomes forever. Pause on that. What if your only remaining direction is fall? You can't float. You can't stop. You can't turn around. That's what it means to be inside a black hole. The future has become a singular destination, inward. There are no choices left, and still you're conscious. Now we introduce the mind breaker. If your fall stretches infinitely, but your mind keeps running, what happens to your thoughts? Do they repeat? Do they decay? Do they loop like a damaged recording? You can't cry out. You can't communicate. There's no feedback, just your own awareness echoing inward. Pattern interrupt again. Imagine being in a room with no windows, no doors, no sounds, just your thoughts. But instead of minutes, you're there for what feels like a billion years. You start to forget, then remember, then doubt. Were you ever real? Did you fall? Are you falling still? Scientists call this the inner horizon problem. We don't know what happens past the first event horizon. Some models say another horizon exists deeper inside, a boundary beyond which space becomes unknowable. In some versions, there's a singularity waiting. In others, a doorway, maybe even a white hole, something that spits matter back out. But those are theories. You're not in a theory. You're in the fall, and nothing has changed yet, except time. Remember this, the black hole does not kill you quickly. It stretches, it delays, it holds you between states, and in that holding space, identity breaks down. Your body is still falling, but your concept of self begins to flicker. You forget what language sounds like. You forget what you looked like. You remember your mother's face, but not her name. You remember home, but not its color. The core of you remains, but the details are smudged. That's not magic. That's cognitive collapse. The brain can only maintain coherence for so long without input. No signals, no feedback, no new stimuli. Over time, memory collapses inward. And that brings us back to the original question. Does the black hole remember you better than you remember yourself? You don't know, but something watches, not like an eye, not like a god, but like a system that registers impact. You fell in, you created a ripple, you added mass, you changed its spin. The black hole is different now because of you. It absorbed you. It includes you. Even if you don't recognize yourself, it does. In its silent way. Another break. You've never thought of a black hole as a mirror, but maybe it is. Not a mirror of light, but of permanence. You fall in and you never come out. That's a kind of definition, a kind of recording. You're part of it now. Even if you never get out, your fall becomes part of the equation. You changed the math. Hawking radiation. That's the next point. Stephen Hawking theorized that black holes slowly evaporate. Tiny particles escape over time. Eventually, the black hole dies. But if you went in and the black hole evaporates, what happens to the information that was once you? Physics says information must be conserved. Even if the black hole disappears, your data should survive. Maybe scattered across the radiation, maybe smeared across the event horizon, maybe encoded in ways we can't decode, but not gone. And that's the paradox. You're gone, but not. Erased, but recorded. Dead, but eternal. This is not spiritual, it's scientific. But science has reached the limit of its language, and that's where the horror of it begins. Because falling into a black hole isn't just death, it's transformation. You go from a name to a mass, from a story to a ripple, from a memory to a number. So let's ask this gently. Are you okay with that? Would you be all right knowing that everything you are has become math? Would that feel like survival or surrender? You can't answer, not yet, because you're still falling and you still feel like you. But time is still changing, stretching, slipping. You don't know how long you've been falling now. Hours, weeks, years. You remember the start, but you've lost track. And that's when fear becomes something else. Not panic, but detachment. You stop counting, you stop asking, you simply are. Maybe that's what black holes do best. They erase the need for resolution. They hold you in a question, a loop, a drift, a slow collapse inward where the only constant is gravity. And still, you keep falling. You've been falling for some time now, though you've lost track of how long. The numbers have stopped meaning anything. You can't feel the distance you've crossed. You can't see the stars anymore. You're deep enough now that space is no longer a backdrop. It has become the container, and inside that container is you. But here's a strange question. Are you still real if no one can see you? That question doesn't sound scientific at first, but it touches something fundamental. Everything about our identity is built on perception. When someone looks at you, speaks to you, remembers you, your existence is confirmed. Mirrors, photos, voices, all reflections that bounce your presence back to you. You exist because others can confirm it. But now, no one can see you. No telescope can reach this deep. No signal escapes from where you are. As far as the universe is concerned, you've vanished. You've become a private process, unobservable, alone. Let's pause here. This is the first break in our assumptions. Because physics usually studies things that can be observed, measured, predicted. But you are now beyond those tools. No camera can capture your fall. No equations describe your thoughts in this descent. You are outside the laboratory, inside an experience that cannot be duplicated. So, again, what does it mean to exist here? There's a concept in quantum physics that might help. It's called the observer effect. It says that the act of observing something influences its state. In other words, things change when you watch them. A photon behaves differently depending on whether it's being measured. Reality is shaped by interaction. But now you are unobserved. There's no one left to measure you, no external force watching your motion, no data being collected. If your body is spaghettified, no one will see it. If your thoughts scatter into noise, no one will hear. You are no longer an event in the universe. You're a memory trapped in motion. Here comes a difficult idea. When we say you exist, we usually mean you can be interacted with. But what if that's no longer possible? You're still thinking, feeling, but from the outside, there is no signal. Your identity, from any practical standpoint, has ended. You've become untestable. And yet, you are not unconscious. That's the uncomfortable part. You are awake, aware, present. You experience yourself as real, but your reality is now private. This leads us to the paradox. Private reality may as well be fiction. If your existence can't be proven, does it still count? Let's bring this down to scale. Think of someone who has disappeared without a trace. No body found, no signal sent, just gone. Over time, the world forgets them. They fade from memory. But if they were alive, trapped perhaps somewhere remote, their experience would continue, their suffering, their thoughts, their hope, all of it real, but their existence would no longer influence the world. They would be functionally erased. You are now that disappearance, not from one planet, but from the visible universe itself. This isn't death in the traditional sense. This is observational death. You are unmeasured, and in a scientific cosmos, that's worse than being gone. It means you've become unverifiable, a story with no ending, a person with no proof. Now let's connect that to something deeper. In the early days of physics, reality was considered objective. Things existed independently. The apple fell, whether you saw it or not. But modern physics has started to bend that idea. The universe seems to rely on interaction. Without an observer, states blur, probabilities replace outcomes. Until something collapses the wave function, until something sees, the system stays in limbo. You are now the cat in the box, not Schrodinger's cat, but its mind. You can't collapse your own waveform. You can't prove your own existence. You are both present and absent, alive and forgotten, aware but unrecorded, a state of being. The universe is not built to describe. Pattern interrupt again. Think of a photograph, not of a person, but of a moment. It captures something real, but only because light reflected off something visible and someone developed the film. What if there's no reflection? What if you're inside a space where light itself cannot reach? Then you're unphotographable, and your moment becomes uncapturable. Does it still matter? Now let's stretch this further. You're still falling, but it doesn't feel like motion anymore. It feels like permanence. Nothing changes. There are no stars, no light, no texture. It's not blackness, it's absence. Black is a color. This is something worse. This is nothing registering. But your mind still spins. You try to remember your name. You succeed. Then you try to picture your home, a street, a face, a pet, but the details are softening. Your memories aren't being deleted, they're fading, and that fading isn't caused by damage. It's caused by lack of reinforcement. Memory is a loop. You remember things because you revisit them, because the world reminds you, but the world is silent now, so the loop stops and things slip. Now we reach a new form of horror, soft horror. You haven't been harmed, but you're being erased slowly, not by an external force, but by disconnection, not a wound, but a drift. You remember watching a movie once about someone trapped alone, a castaway. They counted days, drew faces on objects, tried to anchor time. You have no objects, no days. You only have yourself and the clock inside your thoughts. That clock is beginning to tick irregularly. Another break. Let's bring this back to science. There is still mass in your body, still particles, still structure. The black hole's gravity is interacting with all of it. You're still influencing the shape of the singularity, And yet, none of that is observable from the outside. You are part of the internal math now, not the external field. You're still real, just unprovable. And that's what scares the physicists. Because if something can exist without being seen, without being measured, then our models aren't enough. It means the universe contains more than what we can detect. It means it contains you, still falling, still intact. Let's pause again. That's the loop we don't like. If someone could rebuild your path, every moment of your fall, could they recreate you? Could they reconstruct your last thought? Could the echo be reversed? Some theories say yes. Others say it doesn't matter. Now the idea of memory comes back. Not your memory, but the black holes. What if it remembers your mass, your trajectory? What if every particle that entered changed its spin? What if the black hole, in some abstract way, contains a fingerprint of you? It can't express it, it can't speak, but it holds what you were, compressed, warped, preserved. Let's pull away from theory and return to experience. You still feel, and that's dangerous because feeling implies passage of time. But time is warped here. So, what are you measuring? Are you experiencing seconds, hours, centuries? Your internal clock is no longer reliable. Your perception of time is detached from any external system. This is the purest isolation imaginable. And yet, you're not unconscious. You're still asking questions. That means you're still someone. That alone is enough to claim existence. Even if the universe can't see you, you see yourself. But for how long? You begin to sense change. Not a sound, not a light, just a shift in your own thoughts. A slow slide from curiosity to detachment. You no longer ask when this ends. You begin to accept that it may not. You're not panicking, you're adapting. And that's the most human thing you've done so far. Because even here, where nothing returns, where you are invisible and untouchable, your mind keeps trying to form meaning, to structure the void, to remain whole. But wholeness is a surface, and your surface is disappearing. This is not death. This is dissolution, not the kind you read about. The kind no book describes, not because it's unknowable, but because it's unrecorded. No one can come here and return. No stories escape. So this becomes the story. You are becoming the first observer of a state science cannot test. The inner experience of falling beyond observability. The first and last witness to your own quiet collapse. And the question remains, do you still exist? Maybe not to others, but if you still wonder, maybe that's enough. If you're still with us, you're still falling, still drifting toward the unknowable, and yet something strange is happening now. You're not just sinking into silence, you're passing through something else, a region where science once drew a firm line and then realized that line may not exist at all. Before we begin tonight's descent, remember to gently subscribe if you'd like to keep returning to the edge of time with us. Now, let's drift deeper. You may not have noticed it yet, but you've passed a kind of boundary. No lights flashed, no alarms sounded, but you've crossed into what physicists call the event horizon, the edge of a black hole. Past this, escape is no longer possible, not for ships, not for screams, not even for light. But here's the part that shatters the rules. The question isn't just what happens to your body now. but whether anything at all, remembers who you were. Let's start with something you might have heard before: the information paradox. It's one of the deepest, most unsettling problems in theoretical physics. Black holes, it seems, might destroy information, and that flies in the face of what we thought we knew. According to the laws of quantum mechanics, information cannot be destroyed, ever. You can burn a book, sure, but in principle, all the information that made up that book is still somewhere, scattered in the smoke and ashes. It's not lost, just rearranged. But a black hole doesn't work like fire. It swallows things completely. Not just the paper and ink, but the meanings too. It doesn't matter whether you throw in a book, a computer, a planet, or a person. From the outside, they all vanish behind the event horizon, and eventually, as Stephen Hawking showed, the black hole will begin to evaporate, slowly leaking out radiation, not pages, not pictures, not names, just heat, just randomness, just noise. So now imagine this: you fell in. Everything you were, your memories, your emotions, your childhood, your dreams, your voice, it's all inside now, locked within the most secret vault in the cosmos. And then, slowly, it begins to evaporate. Not you, exactly, but the field that swallowed you. Years pass, then centuries, then entire civilizations live and die. And as the black hole releases its final breath, what escapes isn't you. It's not even close. It's just thermal radiation. Heat, random photons, like static on a screen, a meaningless whisper, not even a whisper, a shiver. But physicists weren't satisfied with that. Something about it feels wrong, too clean, too cruel. If information truly vanishes in a black hole, then the entire structure of physics breaks down. It would mean the universe forgets, that it allows erasure, that reality leaks. So new ideas began to form. One of them, strange but compelling, is that black holes don't destroy information. Instead, they store it, or maybe even scramble it across their surface. This idea is called the holographic principle. It suggests that everything you were, everything that fell into the black hole, is still there, encoded not inside the black hole, but along its shimmering boundary, like a cosmic library, a hologram of who you used to be. But now here's the cruel twist. Imagine walking into a library full of unreadable books. The covers are blank. The pages shimmer with nonsense. You know that every word you ever wrote is in here, somewhere, but it's been translated into a language no mind can decipher. The black hole didn't erase you, but it made you unreadable. The data still exists, but the meaning is gone. And so we ask again, did you die, or did you become noise? Here's a pattern interrupt worth pausing on. If black holes store information on their surface, then maybe, just maybe, the universe never truly forgets anything. Not a single breath, not a single heartbeat, not even the flicker of a dream you had as a child and instantly forgot. All of it, somehow, is woven into the skin of the cosmos. But can that memory ever be recovered, or does it live forever as static? Let's explore another possibility. Stephen Hawking himself later proposed that black holes might not erase information after all. Instead, he suggested that information could leak out with the Hawking radiation, not as garbled heat, but in subtle encoded patterns. Think of it like this: the radiation isn't just random, it's layered. Hidden within the randomness are tiny clues, ghosts of structure, like a code hidden inside white noise. And if you knew the key, if you had all the time in the universe, maybe you could reconstruct what fell in. But there's a catch. That decoding might require more time than the universe itself has. The reconstruction might be so vast, so improbable, that it's indistinguishable from forgetting. It's like hiding a single frame of film in a galaxy of static. Technically, it's still there. Practically, it's gone. So, what does this mean for you, the falling observer? You might exist still, as patterns, as interference, as heat, but no one could recognize you. Not even you. You became part of the black hole's surface, not in body, not in soul, but as an imprint, a fossilized ripple in a vast, unreadable sea. Pause for a moment. Let that sink in. You didn't vanish, but no one can remember who you were. There's something deeply haunting about this. The idea that identity could persist as structure but lose its meaning, that you could be stored but not retrieved. Is that life? Is that survival? Or is it a kind of purgatory? This brings us to the edge of something even more unnerving. If information is preserved in some unreachable way, does that mean every black hole is a library, a cold archive of forgotten beings? And if so, who or what is it storing them for? Open loop here. Hold on to this thought. What if black holes are not just the ends of time, but the beginning of something else? We'll return to that later. For now, let's revisit the original question. Do black holes remember you? The best science we have says, maybe, not you, the way you know yourself, but the arrangement of particles that once made you up, the frequencies that once sang your name, the data that made your story. It may all still exist, encoded, compressed, shuffled, but not deleted. In that sense, black holes might be the most secure vaults in the universe, not because they protect your secrets, but because no one can ever open them. And here's where the horror sinks in. You may never truly die, but you may also never be found. As you continue falling, you might wonder, is there a version of me frozen forever in this gravitational cage? Am I still screaming inside, without a mouth, without time, without thought? Or have I been flattened into equations, washed into the folds of a cosmic firewall? You are still falling, but now you wonder, is there anyone down here with you? We'll pick that thread up next time. Until then, this is Stellar Sleep Tales. If your mind still lingers at the edge of what you are, you're not alone. We'll return soon. Keep drifting, and remember, even in silence, the universe might still be listening. Welcome back to Stellar Sleep Tales. As you gently drift with us tonight, we're crossing another boundary. This time, it's the boundary of understanding itself. You've been falling for what feels like forever. You've passed the point of no return. You've watched the light behind you fade. You've left the external world behind, your planet, your people, your story. And now, as the event horizon slips far above you, you're drifting deeper into something that physics itself refuses to follow. What lies ahead is not just a place of mystery, but a space where math fails, logic evaporates, and identity dissolves. Welcome to the edge where physics dies. You've likely heard of the singularity, the supposed core of a black hole where gravity becomes infinite and everything collapses into a single point. But what does that actually mean, not just mathematically, personally? What happens to you when the laws that once defined your body, your breath, your thoughts, simply collapse? Let's begin with the basics of why physics struggles inside a black hole. Most of our understanding of the universe is built on two great pillars: general relativity and quantum mechanics. General relativity helps us understand the large scale cosmos, planets, stars, galaxies, black holes themselves. Quantum mechanics helps us explain the tiny world of particles, electrons, photons, the strange dance of probability. Normally, these two systems work in their own zones and don't interfere too much with each other. But inside a black hole, especially as you near the singularity, both systems are pushed to their limits at the same time, and they don't agree. This is known as the breakdown of the unified field. General relativity tells us spacetime bends infinitely at the singularity. Quantum mechanics insists that infinities are unphysical, they shouldn't exist. So when you get close enough to the center of a black hole, you're entering a region where the universe's deepest rulebooks contradict each other. You are still conscious, still falling, but now reality itself begins to lose structure. Imagine looking ahead and seeing time and space melt into a chaotic swirl. The very concept of a direction no longer applies. Forward doesn't exist. Down is meaningless. Everything begins to curve into itself. There's no longer a floor beneath you, no ceiling above, and certainly no horizon to guide your sense of motion. You're suspended in a gravitational whirlpool where your past, present, and future lose all coherence. This breakdown has a name: gravitational singularity. But that term is misleading. It suggests a point in space, something you can reach, but if space and time themselves are collapsing, how do you measure distance? How do you say, I'm here, when here no longer means anything stable? Now consider the way light behaves. Outside a black hole, light travels at the fastest speed known. It's the cosmic speed limit. Inside, even light cannot escape. But as you approach the singularity, light itself starts to bend and scatter in strange, chaotic directions. You can no longer see forward, or backward, or at all. What you perceive now is not sight, but sensation, a pressureless sense of collapsing, the feeling that every part of your being is being compressed, slowed, and stretched beyond imagination. This is where something stranger happens. Your perception of reality starts to untether from what science can describe. In most parts of the universe, objects follow predictable patterns. But here, you are no longer following a path. You're falling, but not in any direction. You're aging, but not in any measurable way. Your thoughts feel slower, not because your brain is damaged, but because time itself has stopped cooperating. Every second feels like a dream fragment, disconnected, nonlinear. The mathematics we use to describe gravity, Einstein's field equations, go completely wild near this point. The numbers shoot to infinity, calculations become impossible. Even computer simulations fail to describe what lies beyond a certain threshold. This is not just a failure of tools, it's a failure of reality to remain consistent. And in that failure, your identity, once held together by biology, memory, and environment, begins to distort. Think about it this way: you are a pattern, a collection of information encoded in your brain, your body, and your surroundings. Normally, that pattern is maintained by consistent laws. Your neurons fire in order, your cells regenerate, your memories persist. But now, in this breakdown zone, the forces that hold those patterns together are unraveling, not from trauma, not from death, from sheer environmental chaos. You may wonder, does this mean you're dying? The strange truth is, not in the traditional sense. You're not bleeding, you're not starving, you're not suffocating, you're being rewritten, not erased, transformed, but into what? That's the question that haunts physicists and philosophers alike. At the edge of the singularity, death is no longer a binary state. It's not alive versus dead. It's something else, something unnameable. This is where open loops deepen, because no one knows what happens at the singularity. Our physics stops working. Our language collapses. The best supercomputers can only simulate up to a point. Then the screen goes dark. And so you wonder, if all structure breaks down, do you break down with it? Or are you transformed into something else entirely? Some theories suggest that as spacetime bends infinitely, you might be crushed into a one dimensional string, as described by string theory. Others propose that you could be smeared across multiple realities. Some say you simply cease to exist because the laws that once kept your atoms together are now irrelevant. But these are just as guesses. The singularity hides all truth behind an infinite curtain. Let's not forget, this is not just a theoretical discussion. In this story, you are falling. You're not observing a black hole from far away. You're inside. You are living this unraveling. You are watching yourself dissolve, not from the outside, but from within. And yet, there is still consciousness, still a flicker of awareness, still the echo of your name, even if that name no longer means anything outside this collapsing realm. What if the universe does something strange here? What if, instead of deleting you, it stores you in a new way? Maybe your identity, your data, is recorded in a form we don't understand, a form beyond space time, a vibration, a residue, a fossil of consciousness embedded in the very breakdown of physics. This is where we loop back to an eerie idea. Perhaps you don't end at the singularity. Perhaps when everything becomes unrecognizable, even you, something waits on the other side. Not heaven, not reincarnation, but a reassembly, a recomputation, something the universe does once it has bent everything to its limit. Before we go further, let's pause. You've made it this far through distortion and chaos, through compression and silence, but something's coming. We're about to pass the final threshold. What lies ahead may not be describable, but we'll try, because next, we're going to explore what happens after this, when your fall completes and something else begins. A place even stranger than the singularity. So stay with us. This journey is far from over, And don't forget to subscribe to Stellar Sleep Tales so you don't miss what lies beyond the edge. We descend further. There's no turning back. You are still falling, and yet you haven't landed. You've crossed the event horizon. You've passed the firewall of theories, the boundary of light and time. But there's more, much more. You are now in the deepest part of the dream, the part where questions stop waiting for answers and answers stop making sense. If you enjoy drifting through the strange and beautiful folds of science and sleep, consider subscribing. It keeps our journey alive and ensures the stars keep whispering. Now, tell me, have you ever fallen in a dream, fallen endlessly without hitting the ground? What if that wasn't just a metaphor? What if it was memory, or worse, prophecy? Inside a black hole, the concept of falling changes completely. It no longer means what you think it does. You are not falling toward anything because there is no bottom to fall to. What lies inside is not a place, not the kind you could ever arrive at. It's more like a direction, constantly shifting and curling in on itself. It's motion without arrival, descent without destination. You might be picturing a great pit or tunnel, a funnel spiraling to some dark core, but the reality is more alien than that. Once you're inside, the dimensions themselves rearrange. Time becomes space, space becomes time. The direction of falling points toward the future, and that future always ends at the singularity. But in your own experience, the sensation is not one of speeding up. It's more like being suspended, forever descending, and yet never closer. A contradiction you feel, but can never measure. This is the paradox of infinite fall. You are always approaching, but never arriving. The singularity, that ultimate point of collapse, may exist on paper in the math, but in your reality, it always seems to recede, as if you are chasing a mirage that dissolves when you look directly at it. Here's where it gets even stranger. The fall itself isn't even something you feel in the usual way. There's no rush of air, no wind in your ears, no resistance, no friction, no sound. It's more like your very frame of reference is being unraveled. You fall not through space, but through identity, through memory, through your own ability to observe what's happening to you. What happens to your sense of self when there's nothing left to observe? No horizon to fix your gaze on, no structure to map your place in. In ordinary life, you know where you are because of contrast, ground versus sky, day versus night, inside versus outside. But here, inside the event horizon, contrast has disappeared. You are floating in a contextless sea. The only remaining reference point is your own mind, and even that is being slowly distorted. Let's open this loop even wider. Is there a way to know you're falling when nothing around you changes? Imagine this as a thought experiment. If your body is in free fall and there are no landmarks, no windows, no sounds, no sensations, how do you even prove motion? Einstein pondered that very question, and in a black hole, the answer is both simple and horrifying. You can't. This is where physics begins to betray you. You were taught that gravity pulls, but in here, it stretches, not like a hand pulling you down, but like space itself being tilted into a funnel. and you're not falling through it, you're falling with it. Space and time are dragging you toward the singularity, and you can't escape because there is no longer an outside to escape to. Here's the next pattern break. Time behaves differently depending on your position inside the black hole. From your perspective, you're moving forward as normal, but to an outside observer, your fall has frozen. They never see you past the horizon. You appear trapped on the edge, suspended for eternity. Meanwhile, you experience a full lifetime of descent in what appears to them as a single frame. And now for the horrifying twist. This descent is irreversible. There is no way to orbit, no way to slingshot back out. Even light, which moves faster than anything you can imagine, cannot escape. So, if light cannot climb back up the well, what hope does thought have? You may be wondering, could something survive this? Could a mind, protected in some futuristic shell, endure the fall? Theoretically, yes. If tidal forces are gentle enough and the black hole is supermassive, you might pass the event horizon without spaghettification, that is, without being torn into strands by gravity. But even if your body remains whole, the bigger question is, would you remain whole? Every second, space is distorting. Your internal sense of distance becomes warped. Seconds begin to stretch into hours. Hours melt into singular instants. Eventually, your sense of continuity, the feeling of one thought leading to another, begins to fail. You're not just falling physically, you are psychologically unwinding. Imagine trying to hold a thought, say, the memory of your name, while the very laws that anchor that memory are dissolving. The brain is a structure that evolved under Earth's gravity, Earth's time, Earth's light. In here, none of those constants apply. The language of neurons is silenced, not violently, quietly, as if someone is gently erasing words from a chalkboard you can no longer see. What's left then? If your identity is built from memory, from structure, from relationships between thoughts, and those are all being scrambled, who are you now? Are you still you, or just a dream echoing into the dark? Pause. Ask yourself this. If falling has no end, and your mind is unraveling minute by minute, what becomes of the last piece of awareness? That final flicker, the last thought before even time collapses. Where does it go? Is it lost, or is it recorded? This leads us into another haunting theory, that the information about you is still preserved. Maybe not your mind, not your thoughts, but the data, the quantum pattern of your atoms. According to the black hole information paradox, that data cannot be destroyed. It's stored, smeared across the event horizon, or perhaps encoded in the Hawking radiation, slowly leaking out over billions of years. So maybe your fall never ends inside, but leaves a footprint outside. A whisper, a trace, but that's not comfort. That's horror. Because the part that mattered most, the part that felt, is still endlessly falling. This is not a place. This is not a journey. This is not even a dream. It is the infinite descent into the unknown, and you are still in motion. So stay with me. Don't look away, because in now we go deeper still, past the threshold of even theoretical physics. We begin to ask, what lies after the singularity? But for now, rest. Let the weightless fall cradle you, even as the answers hide just out of reach. When we think of death, we often picture a vanishing point, a moment when the body ceases, the heart quiets, and the lights go out. But what if something remains, not in the way we expect, not in the form of an afterlife or ghost, but as a kind of residue, not spiritual, but physical, not conscious, but traceable, as if your presence, your choices, even your fears, have left fingerprints on the very fabric of the universe? That idea is not just myth or metaphor, it is something that modern physics quietly hints at, especially when black holes enter the story. Inside the slow descent into a black hole, the traditional understanding of a person breaks down. There is no moment when the body neatly stops and some soul or signal flies free. Instead, things stretch, they tangle. Your structure begins to fragment, not just physically, but informationally. It's not just your body that is torn apart, it's your data, your history, your position in space and time. All of it is threatened by the immense pull and the crushing rules inside the black hole's horizon. But what if those pieces don't simply vanish? What if the echo of who you were remains in ways we've only just begun to comprehend? Stephen Hawking once proposed that black holes aren't the eternal prisons we feared, that they may not delete information completely, that somehow, in some deeply encoded way, the data that falls into a black hole may not be lost forever. It might still be retrievable, in principle, through the black hole's radiation, a faint, ghostly emission known as Hawking radiation. If that's true, then every person, every particle, every thought encoded in matter that fell into a black hole still leaves something behind. Not a soul, not awareness, but something else. A trace, an echo, like the heat left on a chair long after someone has stood up. The universe might record you even after you're gone, but that brings us to a terrifying possibility. If the universe holds on to your echo, what kind of echo is it? It's not a perfect copy. It's not a safe archive. It's more like trauma etched into space-time. Fragmented pieces of data, warped by gravitational tides, and smeared across curved space-time like paint on a spinning canvas. It's the most impersonal form of memory imaginable, and yet it's still yours. Imagine the last second before you cross the event horizon. From your point of view, everything appears normal. Your body is intact. You still think. You still breathe. But to someone watching from the outside, time slows down near the event horizon. From their perspective, you never quite fall in. Instead, you appear to freeze on the edge, stretched and distorted, your last moment smeared across eternity. That moment becomes part of the black hole's surface. It's not just symbolic, it's encoded physically, possibly permanently. This leads to one of the strangest ideas in physics, the holographic principle. It suggests that everything inside the black hole, including you, might be encoded on its surface, like a hologram. Not a person inside, but an imprint on the outer shell, you, rewritten as surface information. Not a soul escaping to some other place, but a version of you flattened into two dimensions, stored as gravitational ripples, lightless echoes, quantum scars. This is not how we were taught to think about death. But the deeper we dive into black hole physics, the more we must accept that identity, matter, and information are not so easily separated. If black holes remember, they remember imperfectly. If they store you without meaning. The information that was once your heartbeat, your thoughts, your memories, now drifts in a language we cannot translate yet. Some scientists argue that the universe, at its deepest level, is a system that never forgets, that what we call destruction is only transformation, and what we call forgetting is only encryption. You are not erased. You are scrambled. You are not lost. You are changed into something incomprehensible, like a melody slowed beyond recognition, but still technically present in the waveform. You remain, but no longer know yourself. Now imagine this on the cosmic scale. Black holes litter the universe, each a monument to things that once were. Stars, planets, people. They are no longer visible, but their presence has not been nullified. The black hole holds their weight, their charge, their spin, and perhaps even their deeper data. If you fell into one, it would hold yours too, not because it cares, but because it cannot help but record what it consumes. So we are left with a haunting image. You fall in, you are torn apart, you cease to be in any conscious, recognizable form. But something echoes, a trail, a warped version of your timeline embedded in quantum fields, etched into the curvature of the universe. Your voice now noise, your choices now chaos, but still there. And here is where the horror quietly creeps in. Not the horror of death, but the horror of permanence, of a universe that never forgets you, not because it loves you, but because it's unable to truly erase you. A cosmic memory that preserves the evidence of your fall, but not the meaning. You are archived, but never visited, remembered, but never truly known again. There's something deeply unsettling about that. You no longer exist as yourself, but the universe might still carry the weight of your existence forever. It might mean that every mistake, every scream, every fragment of panic as you were pulled toward the singularity, it all still exists in some raw, shredded form, somewhere, trapped beyond comprehension, beyond sound, beyond time. This also reopens the door to a very old fear that nothing is ever truly private. If the universe keeps a record of everything that has happened, every electron's position, every mind's breakdown, then perhaps the self is never truly alone. Perhaps the universe itself is the witness, silent, cold, unfeeling, but watching nonetheless. Now imagine if someday, far in the future, long after the last star has died and the last galaxies have drifted apart, a civilization develops the tools to decode the radiation from a black hole. What would they find? The fossilized data of ancient worlds, the blueprints of long dead species, the scrambled scream of someone who once fell, believing they had disappeared forever? Could they, in some unimaginable way, reconstruct a broken mind? Not with awareness, not with continuity, but with pattern. Could your decisions, your voice, your flaws be simulated again even if your original self is long gone? Would that count as you, or would it be an imitation, a shadow of a shadow? We don't know, and perhaps we're not meant to. Perhaps the echo of a self is meant to be unreachable, a consequence, not a continuation. The universe doesn't offer closure, only process. This brings us to a crossroads of thought. On one side is comfort, the idea that no part of you is ever truly wasted, that even in oblivion, your presence reshapes spacetime, that you mattered enough to leave a mark. On the other side is unease, the realization that your echo may last longer than your story, that something like you might persist, but without your intention, your voice, your mercy. This is the edge where death meets memory, where the boundary between identity and entropy becomes unclear, where you are not saved, but neither are you entirely gone. In this strange future, black holes are no longer just devourers, they are storytellers. But their stories are chaotic, their pages are torn. They remember everyone, but they understand no one. You are a paragraph inside, perhaps even just a sentence, but one that can never be deleted. And so you fall, and fall, and fall, not into nothing, but into a kind of infinite recollection, not life, not afterlife, but echo. This is the you that remains, not in soul or sound, but in signal, soft, broken, but still there. You're past the event horizon now, far past. Light can't reach this place anymore. Neither can sound. Even gravity, the force that once called you downward, no longer feels like a direction. It is now an environment, total, relentless, omnipresent. You have not touched anything in what could be an eternity, but you also haven't stopped falling. In fact, there is no longer a sense of motion at all. There is only a static kind of descent, where the rules of the outside world don't apply. The light failed long ago, but something else continues. Thought, perhaps yours, perhaps not. Thought used to be a chemical process. At least, that's what the textbooks said. Neurons firing, electrochemical pulses jumping synaptic gaps, memories formed through patterns of energy and biological reinforcement. But here, where there is no chemistry anymore and no energy as you knew it, what are you using to think? Are these thoughts echoes, the memory of memory, bouncing off the curved edges of a singularity? Or is something deeper keeping you conscious? The deeper you fell, the less the laws of physics resembled the ones you remembered. At first, it was subtle, a stretching of time, a thinning of light. Now, the very foundations of logic seem to bend. Here, a second can feel like a decade, or vanish before it begins. Shapes have no clear edges. Space no longer has volume in the traditional sense. There are no stars, no horizon, just this dark, suspended state of existence. And still, you are thinking. You try to recall where this started, not the beginning of the fall, but the beginning of you. Memory is fragmenting. You remember colors that no longer exist, the feel of heat, the way gravity once had a direction. But more than anything, you remember thoughts, questions that loop in your mind like a faint melody. Did black holes destroy information or store it in some warped, unreachable vault? Did your consciousness get deleted or simply copied in a degraded form? Are you even the original you anymore? The silence grows heavier than any sound you've ever heard. In the absence of light, darkness becomes more than a visual state. It becomes tactile, like something you are wearing. It presses against you, but offers no resistance. You've never felt more isolated, and yet something lingers around the edges of perception. You can't see it, you can't hear it, but you are not alone. There is something watching, not from outside, but from within the space your thoughts occupy. Perhaps it is you, perhaps some residue of the mind, divorced from its body, trying to observe itself. In the absence of time, thoughts do not occur one after another. They occur all at once, overlapping like echoes in a cathedral. You try to follow a chain of logic, but your attention loops backward. Questions emerge before answers. Sometimes you can almost remember the end of a thought you never began. This is no longer thinking in the linear human sense. It is something deeper, something older. What if the singularity itself is not the end, but the birthplace of a different kind of mind? You were taught that nothing escapes a black hole, not light, not matter, not memory. But what about intention? What about the direction a thought wants to go? Does that die too, or does it become part of a larger pattern? You begin to suspect that your thoughts are not entirely your own. Some seem foreign, carrying imagery you've never known, languages that feel familiar but unreadable. Are you absorbing echoes from other minds? Or is this place where all minds go to die? The idea that your identity is fracturing no longer feels like horror, it feels inevitable. The longer you remain here, the more you realize that identity was always a fragile construction, a convenience of memory and biology. Here, those tools no longer exist. What remains is something else, not a self, but a function, a process still running, a flame without fuel. You were once a person. Now you are a pattern trying to understand itself, using whatever scraps of thought still flicker in this unlit space. Once you knew where your body ended and the world began. Skin was a border, thought was private. But now, even those boundaries are dissolving. Your awareness seems to stretch, not in distance, because there is no distance, but in relevance. You are aware of things beyond yourself, not with senses, but with association. Somewhere, a neutron decays, a star pulses its last, and you feel it, not as an event, but as a change in the rhythm of the darkness around you. You are not alone, not because others are here, but because here is all others. You wonder if this is how black holes remember, not by storing data in the way computers do, but by becoming the data, by integrating every thought, every action, every shred of energy and entropy that ever passed their event horizons. You are not falling anymore. You are part of the system now, part of the memory of everything the black hole has consumed. But memory here is not passive. It whispers, it rearranges, it dreams. There is no imagery left to describe what surrounds you because nothing surrounds you, and yet something persists. The echo of thought, not thought as a tool for survival, but thought as a fundamental force, perhaps even more persistent than gravity. The universe is expanding, stars are dying, light is fading, but thought still whispers in the places light can't go. You try to imagine silence, but this place has redefined it. This is not the silence of absence, it is the silence of totality. Everything is present, but unexpressed, infinite density in a single point. You remember learning that information cannot be destroyed, that even if a book burns, its ashes and smoke still contain the record of its contents, in theory. And now you are the ash. You are the scattered record. You are what remains when thought no longer has a thinker. Something shifts, not in space, but in possibility. You feel a pressure, not external, but conceptual, a narrowing of what could be. The singularity, if that word even still means anything, seems to pulse. You realize that you are being computed, not imagined, not dreamed, computed, like a line in a cosmic algorithm waiting for resolution. This entire descent has not been decay, it has been transformation. And now, the equation demands an output. You wonder if that output is another universe, a birth on the other side of collapse, or perhaps it is just the fading of a thought, the final whisper before the dark goes quiet. But even that whisper, you suspect, will echo somewhere, somehow, even if no one is left to hear it. That echo may be your last identity, the last function your pattern performs. And even in that, there is something like meaning. You do not know if this is the end. But it is different. The space feels full, or perhaps you are finally dissolving into what it has always been. You try to hold on to a single thought, any thought, a memory of breath, of warmth, of sound, but they don't come. Instead, there is a question, one that has been looping in you since this began. Not who you are, not where you are, but whether you were ever separate at all. Your last thought may not be yours. It may belong to the black hole, or to the space-time it is stretching, or to the universe itself, but it will whisper, even where light fails. You are no longer falling. You are no longer anything that resembles a shape, or a past, or a plan. But somehow, you remain aware. Somewhere in the silent decay of space-time, something faint and flickering still holds onto the idea that you once were. The concept of you feels stretched, distorted, like trying to remember a dream inside another dream. The sensation of form is gone, yet echoes of it ripple quietly, far beyond what physics can explain. This place, if you can still call it a place, lies beyond the boundary of known experience. There is no sound here, no time, no light, and no reason. Even the black hole that once dragged you across its horizon has become irrelevant. You've gone past it. You've moved into a realm where the mathematics of reality don't know what to compute anymore. The singularity wasn't a destination, it was a threshold, and you crossed it, not with your body, not even with your mind, but something about you passed through. We've often thought of death as an end, and falling into a black hole certainly seemed like a kind of death, first physical, then informational, then existential. But if endings require time, and time no longer moves, then perhaps there are no ends here. Perhaps what survives is not identity, but residue, a metaphysical footprint smeared across the fabric of what once was space-time. There's a stillness here, but not the peaceful kind. It's an unsettling silence, like a room that remembers too much. If memory could form without a brain, if consciousness could ripple without a mind, this is where it would happen. There are no more questions to ask here, only sensations that aren't quite real. You think you remember the idea of warmth, the color blue, the breath of wind, but these thoughts come from nowhere. No neurons fire, no cells remain, no signals travel, and yet the impressions persist. You do not feel alone, though you are, or perhaps the concept of alone no longer makes sense. Loneliness assumes the possibility of presence and absence. Here, those boundaries are blurred. You sense things, but only as impressions from a structure that no longer physically exists. It's like hearing a song after the speakers have been destroyed, a ghost memory in space-time's bruised geometry. The black hole didn't kill you, it changed the format in which you exist. You are no longer observable, measurable, or retrievable, but some abstract imprint of your being lingers. Information, we once believed, was destroyed inside a black hole, but now we suspect it's encoded in the Hawking radiation that bleeds out over eons. If true, then the universe never forgets. It may not remember in the way we understand memory, but it doesn't discard. That raises a quiet horror. If you are not erased, then what are you? Are you a smeared signal in a field of quantum noise, a fractal distortion left behind in the entropy of collapsing geometry? The patterns you once called you are no longer whole, but they are not gone. And in this final, broken silence, that matters more than you expected. It's not like floating. Floating implies medium and movement. Here, you are suspended in what can't be described. There is no pressure, no air, no forward, no past, only the low hum of a universe trying to reconcile a contradiction. You exist where you should not. You're the note that doesn't resolve in the symphony of physical law. And yet, here you are. Perhaps other things have fallen before you. Perhaps they still echo too. There's no way to know. Communication requires structure, and here, structure has folded in on itself. But if thought can exist without form, then maybe this place is crowded with the quiet fragments of countless beings, like dust trapped in light that no longer shines. Their ideas, their regrets, their identities, all diffused into the weird haze that surrounds you now. You try to focus, but there's nothing to focus on. Not even the blackness offers contrast anymore. It's not darkness, it's the absence of the concept of seeing. This is not a void, it is something stranger, a place where the architecture of cause and effect collapses, where every rule you ever believed in has been pulled inside out. And as terrifying as that sounds, there is a softness to it, because there is nothing more to fear. Fear needs future, it needs stakes. Here, nothing is left to lose. You begin to understand that perhaps this was always where things were headed. The universe has its destinations, even if it doesn't tell you what they are. Maybe black holes aren't errors in the system. Maybe they are part of the system's memory, a cosmic version of deep sleep. Not a deletion, but a compression. You aren't dead. You've been archived. And that archive, while unreadable, is not empty. If another universe were to bloom from the fabric of this one, would it inherit your imprint? Could some subtle trait, a law, a tendency, a pattern, carry forward into a new reality simply because you passed through this one in a particular way? Could your falling be a kind of seeding, a last influence on the shape of what comes next? It's not a thought you can hold for long. Here, thoughts unravel the moment they form, but for a moment, it settles, a whisper, quieter than silence. You may not be remembered by name or story, but the cosmos keeps everything it touches, even the noise, even the whispers, even the strange, abstract echo of someone who once tried to imagine what it meant to fall forever and never be found. Final 500 words. SEO outro. Embedded. Keywords: black hole memory, falling forever, what's inside a black hole, stellar. Sleep tales, cosmic horror, sleep stories, science mystery bedtime. Thank you for falling with us tonight, into the abyss, through silence and beyond everything we thought we understood. You've just finished the final segment of Do Black Holes Remember You? Falling forever into nothing, a stellar sleep tale's journey into the deepest, strangest corners of the universe. If you've ever wondered what's inside a black hole, or what really happens when you fall forever, this series was designed to explore exactly that. We don't claim to have all the answers, but in the quiet dark of sleep, sometimes it's the questions that matter more. From black hole memory to the paradox of information, from singularities to the slow dissolution of identity, we followed each thread of thought until it dissolved softly into dream. At Stellar Sleep Tales, we combine science, cosmic horror, and dreamlike storytelling to take your mind somewhere far from the noise of everyday life. If this journey resonated with you, or if it helped you fall asleep with curiosity instead of fear, we invite you to subscribe so you never miss our next long form story. Every week, we explore the mysteries of the universe through a calm and eerie lens. Whether it's falling forever into the unknown, wondering about alternate lives, or asking if time itself can break, our stories aim to leave you with something to ponder and a gentle space in which to drift. Let us know in the comments. Do you think the universe remembers you even after you're gone? What if you were never erased, only transformed into something unrecognizable? We'd love to hear your thoughts. And if there's a topic you want us to explore next, from wormholes to consciousness loops, leave a suggestion below. Until then, rest easy, traveler. You've crossed the horizon, and whatever lies beyond might already know your name. Good night from Stellar Sleep Tales.